Hello folks, Sean Mize here, and today we're going to kind of continue our hero's journey for marketers. In the last training I did it from a teaching perspective to teach you what to do, and then we did some generic examples. Today, we're going to go through the pattern of using this hero's journey, and we're going to do it in terms of you creating your hero's journey in your business. And you may ask, hey, why didn't you just do it all at one time? Because I wanted you to take the time to create some of those sample stories before you try to create yours, because if you do that, yours will be stronger. And I knew if I gave it to you all at once, most people would probably try to rush through to the end and just do their own story, and then it wouldn't be as strong. Okay, and so what we're going to do here is we're going to skip to slide 17 because that's where we're going to start. So you just kind of pull this back up. So basically what we did on the last video is we did a sample story here. We did Sally's story, Jimmy's story, and the frog's story. Somebody asked me why I used a frog and not a prince. I could have used a gecko. I could have used a water buffalo, a caribou, and it's just something to be funny. So these are your stories. You should have done 3, 4, 5 of these yourself, and you should be able to write these in 5 minutes apiece. Okay, that's kind of your practice homework. Okay, this was the homework. Okay, so now we're tie into what we're doing here. Now that you've done the homework and written some imaginary stories, we can start thinking about exactly what your story for your marketing is going to be. Remember, this is not final. You can change, edit, morph your story over time. You can write new stories for your marketing. Over time, you'll find that certain stories feel good or effective and match your persona, so those will grow with you over time. The first step is to determine what you want someone to believe after they hear your story. You likely want them to believe that they can do what you do, or that they can do what your clients do. If they don't believe, they won't buy. So your story must be consistent with what an ordinary target prospect would need or want. Then you can write or determine the storyline you'll use for your marketing story. Decide about telling the story from one of 3 perspectives. I taught you this in the last video. Today, you're going to have to make a decision before you can go any further. Okay? And really, for this training, the entire training is your homework. Okay, we're going to literally do this together. Okay, in fact, I'm not even sure if at the very end I summarized, this is your homework assignment like I do for most of them. This whole video is your homework assignment. So you need to make a decision. Is your prospect going to be the hero? Is it going to be you, hero turned mentor, with the angle that your prospect will follow in your path? Or is it a third-party person as the hero turned mentor? Once you've chosen the perspective, now you can begin to write your story. The easiest way to do this is to imagine how someone who is your target prospect would feel going through each phase. You see, your prospect must identify with the hero. The hero is your prospect. Your story tells the story of your hero, but the hero is a figure of your prospect. So, for example, if you want your prospect, so if we kind of go back to one of these stories here, if you want your prospect, let's say in the relationship niche, your prospect fights, you want your prospect to stop fighting, and it's not easy, you go through the ultimate test, the whole thing, you're going to tell a story about Sally that's going to sound awful like your prospect stories and your prospect story. And what's going to happen is, just because we're human, when someone tells a story that we identify with, we put ourselves in the story's shoes. That's why it's so much fun to read fiction about some guy. Depends on what you like to read, but I like to read fiction about some guy that tries to solve the world's problems by going and finding some assassin and murdering the assassin and righting the world. I enjoy watching those kind of fiction stories. Why? Because part of me is like, boy, if I was younger and in better shape, maybe I could be the guy that goes out there and travels around the world and furtively sneaks in and finds the assassin and kills the assassin, and hey, now I'm highly respected in the world. And there's just something inside of us. And maybe you like to read romance novels, maybe you like to read murder mysteries, maybe you like to read whatever you like to read, but you likely identify with the person that's in the story. Well, that's what you want your prospects to do, is to identify with either you or with Sally or Jimmy or whatever the case is. And by the way, folks, if as I'm sharing this with you, I'm trying to make this as concise as possible. If as I'm sharing this with you, if some of these concepts are things that you've never, ever, ever been exposed to, I recommend going out and getting some of the books I mentioned in a couple videos back. You know, telling or the Story Wars, and then Telling to Win, and anyway, I don't have them in front of me. They're on one of the earlier videos. Go get the books and read them. Seriously, read them. Read a chapter a day for a month, and you'll be amazed at how much you'll learn. Okay, obviously, if you've been exposed to a little bit of this, the concise version is probably all you need right now. Okay, once you've chosen that perspective, then you can begin to write that story. Okay, the easiest way to do this is to imagine how someone who is your target prospect would feel going through each phase. You see, your prospect must identify with the hero. The hero is your prospect. Your story tells the story of your hero. The hero's the figure of your prospect. Okay, then you'll tell the story. And I'll show the earlier examples on the next slide. So those are the examples. Again, we did it in the last video. I'm not going to waste your time and mine kind of reviewing these. These are the stories, and we went into great detail in the last video. Your story is going to be similar to this. Instead of Sally and Jimmy and the Frog, your story might be Sue or Mark or Water Buffalo. It's supposed to be funny. Here's your homework. Write your story. This will be your core story. It does not have to have a lot of details. We'll layer those on over the next few lessons. Okay? Just write a story just like this. Write it on a sheet of paper. Let it work in your brain, in your mind for the next few days, and it will grow. Remember, it's not your final story. I've written many stories. Okay? You're going to layer on additional stories as time goes on, and we'll get into some of that in the next video.